User in your channel started recording.
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters Chris Scales,
Hey, Mike.
David Hall,
Hey.
Greg Hectus,
Hey all.
and special guest Nick Ottinger.
Hello, friends.
Hey, welcome. All right, let's jump right into it. A lot of stuff going on. Nick, let's talk about you and what got you started in iRacing. When was it? When did you first hear the word iRacing? When did you first learn about it, and what brought you to us?
It's actually a pretty interesting story, I'd say. My alliance member I work with, Michael Connie, I think he was on this podcast last week.
Yep.
Me and him were good buddies, and we actually used to race with each other back in, I'd say like the '08 to like '09 days on NASCAR '09 via like PS3. And we used to be friendly rivals back then. So I mean, he brought up the term iRacing to me, and we used to do a lot of league racing on, like I said, NASCAR '09. But he brought up the term iRacing and done it probably for about a month, maybe to 2 months at that time. And we just raced so much on NASCAR that he's like, okay, I need you over here and let's race with each other. So I mean, basically for almost 10 years now, I've been racing with Michael, against him and with him. So it's been interesting. I know a lot of guys have said, at least like Dale Jr. and all that, kind of like got the ball rolling on like get people in there, and Mike was just real influential, and even with him being younger, more influential in me getting the iRacing. So it was something cool. I'm glad he got me into it. I'm
Yep.
kind of a little mad he keeps outrunning me still.
Well, I would call you what's called a veteran for sure. You've been around 8 years here. Looking at your profile, winning percentage in oval overall 39.5%. Man, that's a great number.
Is it that high? Oh man.
That is high. That's one of the highest we've seen. It's right there with Michael Conti. I don't remember exactly where he was at, but it was very close to that.
I haven't done. I don't race a lot, like league racing and all that, and everything like that. Because when I first started iRacing, like I said, Mikey got me started in it. But when I first started, I just had a laptop, and what I had was just a laptop and a little TV tray in front of me with like a little pedal set under the TV tray. So I'd actually just sit on my couch out in the living room that I had, and I would put the steering wheel on the TV tray, but I'd have the laptop to the left of me, like 90 degrees to the left of me, sitting on the armrest. So I'd be actually driving with my arms forward, but I'd be looking to the left constantly. So I'd done that for probably about a year and a half when I first started iRacing, and it was I just raced so much. Like I'd get home this was back when I was still in high school. I just raced so much. I just get home, finish my homework, what I had to do, and I just get on and actually race. Wouldn't do no practice or nothing. I see a little Legends race on there, and I just compete.
Yep. Looking at your stats, 2011, you had a 55% win that year with 15,000 laps. You only did 2,600 laps last year. So, yeah, you were getting it done back then.
I guess you say this veteran's getting tired, I guess, because he don't race much.
All right. Well, tell us about your hardware setup. What are you running for wheel, pedals, monitors, goggles, what?
I run on a Driving Force GTF. I've went through a couple of them. Say wheels throughout my, I guess, like 9 years I've been on iRacing. Actually, it'll be 9 years coming I think this May. I'll be on here for 9 years. So I just ran a Driving Force GT wheel. I upgraded to probably, I think, Fanatec CSR Elites probably a year and a half ago. My first race on them was actually Sonoma in 2017, and it was a little bit of a learning experience running, upgraded pedals, especially running on a road course with a stock car, because a lot of braking is really heavy braking that you have to do for long distances. But monitor, I just run on like a 24-inch monitor, like HP. That's about it. I haven't tried VR. I I'd actually like to try it to see the sensation that people talk about it with, but I ain't too keen on having all that fancy stuff to drive on here.
All right, very good. So I'm going to jump around here on the questions. Let's talk about your peak involvement and JTG Daughtery. Tell us about what happened when you figured out that there was going to be a draft, how you felt about your chances in the draft, and then what was it like when you learned about that? And have you talked to Mr. Brad Daughtery at all, actually over the phone or something?
I'll try to answer that kind of how you just asked it. I was excited to have JTG, obviously in the sport or e-sport. Um, but to be honest, I really didn't think I would fall to eighth, considering, and nothing against other competitors and nothing like that, but considering I basically had the second highest winningest average in the series itself. Um, I expected probably to go like fifth or sixth, but I mean, honestly, in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I went to JTG. Great people. They've honestly treated me like family. They've really they're the last group to be involved in the draft, and I, they didn't really know much about iRacing at the time when they got into it, which it sucks. But I mean, they've been so supportive and kind of leading them into the esport world and everything like that. And to answer your last question on that, no, I have not talked to Brad because they have a representative at JTG that kind of runs the esports initiative, which is a younger guy, which is actually nice to have someone influential as far as a younger guy and can actually understand what we go through and everything.
Yeah, like a marketing guy or PR guy or something.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. I'm sure you'll talk to him at some point. And I think I saw on Twitter they sent you a bunch of stuff too. I thought was pretty cool.
They did. They sent me a lot of I know some people laugh about it, some toilet paper, some like cleaning supplies and stuff like that, but Kroger was really nice in sending that. Um, it was actually a surprise because I was actually on a trip to Arizona when the guy at JTG I talked to, that I talked to almost every week, and he said I had a care package from Kroger, which was probably about 45 boxes worth of care packages, and I had a trip to Arizona with some actual racing buddies of mine on here and some friends from outside of racing on iRacing, and I came back and getting a lot of dang cleaning supplies. Like, oh, that's neat. So I mean, I can't thank Kroger for enough for sending all that stuff. We still got some cool stuff that we'll probably get to later in the year with them. So
Yeah, and I was thinking, my wife would love that stuff. Actually, it would be cool if all these stuff, cleaning supplies, showed up for free. She would be stoked. That's pretty cool. All right, and let's talk about your peak this year and whatnot. Now, I understand that you're going to sit out a race here, and it was because some kind of penalty system that I'm really not aware of. But tell us about that, and then tell us, where do you sit in the points? What's your outlook going forward?
yeah, we're sitting good in points, and like you said, we're most likely gonna sit out a race. Basically, this is my own fault of causing too many incidents. And what that entails is basically just if you like spin, do a self spin, or if you like wreck a guy, they basically determine it's your fault or the other guy's fault if you're in a wreck. And I've been on a three strike rule with that, so basically that's kind of what you get in passes a three strike rule. And we're gonna sit out a race for that, but I mean we're sitting good in the points, sitting seventh. Um, Playoffs, you got to finish the top eight, but I mean we're still in striking distance if we sit out this next race at Richmond. I mean we can't fall too far behind that 12th, maybe 12th to 14th in points, and that's probably going to be maybe 25 to 30 points out. So it's definitely doable to still keep in contention for it. And honestly, our cars at JTG and everything, I mean we've been probably been top five pace each race, so I mean we can't complain.
All right. And let's talk about that. I mean, it's not just the driver, but it's the car too. And you have a great setup around you with all the team members that you're working with. Besides JTG Daughtery, you have the other team, and so let's talk about who's behind Nick Ottinger and who supports your effort.
Well, I'm gonna say Pocono Racing near 2017 is when Michael Connie, and I actually kind of, I want to say get on speaking terms. Just I'd say speaking terms, relative to the Peak Series itself, and we thought about working together at that point, and really since then we've just been Connie and Brian Schoenberg, Brandon Hastings, Brad Davies. They've been real good to me, and Matt Busa, because Matt Busa used to be a teammate of mine when I first started the Peak Series, and we were known as Gale Force Sim Racing at the time. And with Matt Holden, my crew chief, and my spotter Justin Weaver. Matt Holden's actually been really influential in my career, honestly. He's only missed one race, I think, in the 7 years I've been in Peak. So that's pretty reliable teammate right there, and we actually got paired together from actually Hale Gale. He used to be a truck series driver back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember him beating Kyle Busch at Homestead, but we were basically like schoolgirls cheering at that point. But Matt Holden's been with me for that long. Um, I haven't really talked Christian too much as far as it being a teammate and everything like that. He's been a good teammate with JTG, but we don't do any extensive like setup work together. All that comes from basically
Right.
this team Connie and myself and stuff like that. But Brandon Hastings is basically the head setup guy over at Team Connie, and we kind of basically just come together and try doing what we can as far as setups and everything like that. We got a lot of testing time we can do, and it's been paying off this year for sure.
Yeah, with the new package and all. All right, tell us about what was your most memorable moment in iRacing, and what is your preferred car number and why? Now we know you're running the 47, right?
Yes, we are running to 47. It's not my preferred number. I've ever since I've started iRacing, I've been keen on running. I know a lot of people like saying it 05, but I don't pronounce it that way. I call it 05. The reason I call it 05 is because it represents uh story my dad taught me. My dad used to race back in the 70s and 80s. Just at this like local short track in Hialeah, down in Florida. I think it's closed down now, but told me about the story. He ran 05 because the O represented his last name. His favorite number at the time was 5 as well, so he kind of just paired them together. And I always kind of been, I want to say, proud of that story. It's nice, but like it's just real nice to have something a different meaning in the number instead of just seeing like numbers in it. So as far as the memorable moment, I got so many of them to be honest with you, Mike. It's hard to tell, but I said my most memorable will probably be 2018 peak opener at Daytona.
Oh,
That's
the big one.
yeah, it's a big race to win, but it's so difficult just to finish. Everyone tells you as far as just real life, Cup, Xfinity, and trucks, just how hard it is to finish. Here we're all so close together, and obviously you're racing on the internet, so you can't really get as close as you want with competitors. But um, be able to win that race was something special for me because I ain't really had too much luck there. But just to be able to kind of control the race with my teammates, with Michael Conley, Brian Schoenberg, and myself, and just run up front the whole race, and actually be able to hold off some veterans behind me and Mike and Brian was something special because they're so hard to actually had to ride a brake majority of the last lap so people didn't get a run on me. So that's probably the most difficult one I actually had.
All right, I'm going to ask your educated opinion here. With this new package going into Talladega and then Daytona later, with the tapered spacer instead of a restrictor plate and a 9-inch spoiler, what do you expect? How is it going to be different than what we're used to at Daytona and Talladega? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be different? What do you think?
I think it's going to be really different. I don't want to speculate too much on it because with that 9 inch spoiler, you're not gonna be able to see much in front of you. See a
It'll
lot
be
of people
clear. The
just,
top 4 inches will be clear.
yeah. I still don't think they'll be able to see that well. Honestly, I mean, I think a lot more checkups, especially on restarts, will happen, and get a guy behind you just too antsy to push you to try to stay with you, and they can't see cars ahead of them. I think it'll be a little bit hard to kind of keep it green. But I mean, I think the racing will be exciting. I think you'll probably see more passing than you really ever see at a plate track. I mean, I I'm not really a plate racer per se, but I mean I can see a lot of passing happening.
It's going to be interesting. I think that's the big thing I'm looking forward to is how is that going to shake out. I'm afraid the car's going to be faster than NASCAR thought. One more quick thing, sort of related. The peak races that you've run this year, does the package with the new package, does it match what NASCAR is doing? Does it match what you see is happening in real NASCAR? Did iRacing get it right as far as matching the package?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you got to take into account, NASCAR's running different tire compounds sometimes compared to what we are running a lot of times at these like mile and a half tracks and super speedways and stuff. And you got to take into account also like the aero efficiencies and deficiencies that the car has in real life compared to iRacing. Is they got much more stronger wind gusts and everything like that, and different angles where it's really hard to emulate what real world's doing. But I think they've done probably the best job they've done to date as far as nailing the car down. Which, not to knock them, but it ain't that hard with all the horsepower we have, to be honest. So
All right, very good. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on the show today and telling us about all that. Uh, look, I hope your appeal goes through and you're able to run um, this event coming up. I think there's no drop weeks, but I think everyone's going to naturally have one because there's so many wrecks. This last race, more than half the field was wiped out there in the last few laps, and I think it's naturally going to happen that people are going to have bad runs, and I think you'll be perfectly all right.
yeah, I think like I said earlier, man, we'll have a good strong. We'll have strong cars each week. I mean, the guys at JT, our setup guys at Team Connie, they put in so much effort to where we can honestly just rely on just at least having the strongest car at a certain point in the race. We'll have the strongest car, but we just gotta find ways to be consistent and basically adjust the way our way through the race. Because at Auto Club or California Speedway, in peak, that's probably the best race I've done adjustment wise in the race. And unfortunately, that's the only race that we've actually wrecked out of the lead. So, I mean, we've been good, like you said. There ain't no drop weeks, but I mean, we've ran, like I said, top 5, top 10 in basically every race this year. And I can't see why we can't still keep that effort going.
Yeah, yeah, I think you got a good shot at it. So, all right, very good. Let's wrap up with where can fans follow you on social media, and anyone you want to thank, like if they want to see, the next time you get some Kroger products, how do they follow you?
Well, if they want some Kroger products, they can follow me on Twitter. I do a lot of my social media on that, at Nick Ottinger. Hopefully, it's not too hard for you guys to spell. But you just go on there, look for the ponytail guy in the profile picture. And I do a little bit of streaming. We do a little bit of streaming for our peak races every other Tuesday. Um, and possibly we ain't streaming this Tuesday at Richmond, unfortunately. But you guys can follow me on Autoboss47. You guys would do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Hopefully, it'll be some good entertainment for you guys because it ain't just us driving in circles. We actually have some good conversations there, and I want to thank you guys for having me on this podcast because some good interview questions here. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we're happy to have you and learn more about you and your efforts. We'll be watching carefully as you go through the Peak Series, and welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
All
you
right.
guys having me.
All right, very good. Now we're going to get to topics, but first let's talk about Sim Racing Authority. We do sponsor their Sunday Night Xfinity Series and their league event, the iRacers Lounge Podcast Series. The 150 lap event uh, at Lucas Oil Raceway went for 5 cautions, totaling 24 laps. Lap 60, Freddie Del La Rosa claimed the stage victory for 10 bonus points. Freddie went on to claim an additional bonus point for leading the most with 64. eNASCAR peak driver Jake Nichols would go on to take the checkered flag with 39 laps led. Delonto Ballard came home with a season-high second finish, followed by Josh Robin and Ethan Kurtz, who earned season-high finishes as well in third and fourth. After 5 weeks, Jake Nichols and Ben Nelson sit atop the point standings, only 2 points apart. Tune into OSRN on Facebook at 7:30 Eastern next Sunday as they head to Texas Motor Speedway. Good race, and Jake Nichols is cleaning up over there, guys. All right, let's jump into topics. I'll take the first one. We got Swen Bruckner post about his 0.000 finish, wondering how iRacing decides who won. Randy Cassidy answered that he was beat by 1/10,000th of a second. And he actually posted some data in the forum post. I like a copy paste from the database, and they show like the ID number of the driver and then the time stamp. And I haven't really figured out how that time stamp is formatted, but apparently it does read to the 10,000ths of a second.
That's crazy how close it is.
Yeah, I really wonder if it's actually possible to finish on the same 10,000th of a second, or if it just came down to who got lucky to get the bit on the computer processed first.
Well, that and it's all done with, network connections and stuff like that. Like, if you had a quicker connection and the signal went faster, does that mean you could get that extra 10,000th of a second?
I'm sure the programmer has to write in a piece of code that says what happens if it ties up, which way does it go, or I don't know. But it is 1 digit apart from each other. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 digits long. All right, pretty cool. David, tell us about a flickering track problem.
So we have a post with a couple of YouTube videos showing some tire walls actually flickering quite a bit. Somebody had thought that I had mentioned seeing something similar to this. It happened to me. I was actually running down the Miami Road course coming to the final hairpin and saw almost the entire track just went gray for a sudden, like a Star Trek holodeck glitch or something. And I just kind of had to guess on my brake timing. It just happened once. Not really anything resolved. The staff members are responding and asking them to send the videos, and so I'm sure they'll keep an eye on it.
So I think I've seen this as well, personally. It was like the grandstands all went like a neon color for a second, and then it went away.
Yeah, the tire wall that was flashing, it was just, it was flashing rapidly, so it essentially had a transparent look almost,
now,
or translucent.
We'll talk about it later, but there was a release today, and there was a newer thread or a update on this thread that kind of grew where there's a lot of people reporting this issue. And I don't know if it's related to the build that came out today, but it did exist before the build today, because you saw it, I saw it, several other people in the forums. All right, Greg, tell us what's next about Fury Modifieds.
Okay, so iRacing tweeted out that they paid a visit to their friend Jay Boz. How do you pronounce the name? Bonner? Bonner?
I don't know.
Sorry, I butchered that name. I apologize. To see his Fury race car. Now, it's basically what we're looking at here on the tweet is it's a modified car. I'm guessing it's
pavement modified.
It's a really nice looking car, and I guess it stirred up a lot of discussion if something that we're gonna get added to iRacing then.
Yeah, they basically hinted that they are scanning it. Now, I understand that this guy builds these modifieds, and a lot of the current modified drivers buy this particular chassis, which is called Fury, and it's an update, because the old pavement modified in iRacing is an old one that really isn't run anymore. So this is, they're basically updating the car.
It'd be interesting to see. That'll be another pavement oval car. See how that goes if participation goes for it.
I'd be into it. I actually own the old one, I think. So, all right, pretty cool. Chris, let's talk about Mike Conti. Wow, he got to go to Hendrick.
Yeah, he tweeted the other day. He said, I was able to spend some time at Team Hendrick the other week prepping the Lumar Films iRacing sim for this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Motion and all, it's pretty awesome. Check it out if you're in attendance this weekend. Obviously, Texas has passed, but yeah, pretty cool. We'll say he got to go to Hendrick and help them get this set up for the race weekend. I thought that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess I'm confused. Is it that he helped him set up the sim that they had at the track, or he got to use the Chevy simulator in Charlotte?
I'm thinking that he got to set up what they were using at the track
Okay,
at Hendrick.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
what it sounds like.
that's pretty cool. Getting the ground floor, on that team, as an intern, or hey, this is our sim guy or something.
They're gonna have an open spot for a driver in 2 years.
All right, David, don't be blue. A patch before midseason.
I'm tempted to sing. John Henry is dropping hints that there's going to be a patch midseason, which might be pointing towards some more work on the tire model. A couple of hints there, and he also concluded some of the statement by pointing out that the problem that was discovered in the Skippies with the gaining grip as the tire got hotter and got into more slip angle had more to do with the car itself rather than the V7 tire because it's one of the oldest models that's still in the sim. They are working on it. It's still in testing. It's not finished, but he's dropping hints.
Very cool that they're going to put up an update for the tire. Not this build, obviously, but maybe a future one.
Again, as I said before, I appreciate the fact that I thought it was a really good idea to put something like this out for one car and let something be discovered before it feels like it's broken the game for everybody in the entire sim.
Yeah, and of course, stuff got discovered, and it turns out that this is the actual first car that iRacing ever built, and it hasn't been updated. So, all right, so let's talk about Season 2 patch. Greg.
So I guess they were planning on doing it Tuesday, but I guess it got moved to this morning or today.
Thursday, yeah.
It wasn't a great big update, but there were some updates in it. It looks like the beta UI got some update, some new stuff for the Internet Explorer, um, just minor fixes to some tracks and cars. Dirt late model tracks are Bristol, Charlotte, Eldora. So just some basic stuff. Oh, looks also there's some pit stop animations fixed on the IndyCar. So check that out in the patch notes on the iRacers page or on the iRacers page, iRacing page.
One thing I want to point out on the member site, the website, they did a change with HTTPS where the forums are now HTTPS instead of HTTP, and that has broken some stuff from what I read in the forums. It broke the thing where you could turn the forums gray instead of white with a plugin for Chrome. That's broken. And now there was also an app for Android that you could read the forums with. That's broken as well until it gets updated. So they made that slight change, and it kind of broke those third-party tools with the forums.
Hammer's probably losing it. He liked that the gray background.
Yep. Yeah, it's gone. But somebody will fix it. It's not a big deal. My understanding is it goes back and forth when they show if there's a photo that a user has put in the forum post that is a third source, third party source, then it won't be a secure website. But if there is no photo, then it would be secure. So as you go from page to page, it can change from one to the other, I think. Okay, I'm moving on to the next one. When I saw this, I called it Podcast Gold. And it's a long post by John Henry, really about the history of iRacing. And I found it intriguing because This is not really documented anywhere. We talk about iRacing a lot, and there's not like a place on the internet you can go and just see, okay, what is the history of iRacing? And so I'm going to read some of this because I think it's very pertinent to what we do and talk about a lot. All right. While most of you think the birth of iRacing as the summer of 2008, the company actually started with a lunch that Dave Kamer, Steve Myers, and I had 16 years ago in Boston. By the end of that lunch, we had decided to work together to create all of this. Dave's primary interest that day was in creating a new generation of physics. He had been a pioneer in racing simulation and had sold Papyrus to Sierra, who sold it to Vivendi. He was essentially retired racing Skip Barber 2000 cars. Dave, Steve, Randy, Grant, Greg, and Sean, with Papyrus closing its doors, brought into my primary interest, creating a racing service and community. I had been racing online with about 60 friends across the U.S. 4 nights a week. We called it RSR, which still exists as a racing league here, although I haven't participated in many years. Anyway, moving ahead. I'm kind of skipping up here just a minute. But at the core group of Papyrus artists and coders, a very strong group that remains virtually intact today, who added many talented people to the core and turned ideas into reality. Ideas are a dime a dozen, but creating the entirety of what iRacing is now and will become remains the results of a group of passionate racing enthusiasts. I remember trying to make a deal with Vivendi executives to purchase the Papyrus code one day in New York City. The head guy leaned back in his chair and said, "These guys will never create anything saleable because they are such racing purists." We set about to form iRacing in 2003 with the goal of creating a service and a next generation of physics, but a critical element was sanctioning. We created first to sanctioning official racing. Then we made the decision to create all of our own content to effectively control cheating and quality, and this created such an uproar that at the time some called us Nazis. It was hard in those days to ask the community to trust us, but in order to create a financially sustainable business that would carry us forward with the capabilities needed to continually improve all aspects of this endeavor, we couldn't make it work any other way. And it has worked. We became financially sustainable in 2012. While we have not recouped the initial investments, that was not the goal. The goal was to be sustainable and enduring as the finest community of racers in the world. And we are, with the most talented racers in the world, participating globally. Steve likes to remind me that iRacing literally is the first esport. Being marginally profitable for each of the last 7 years, that has allowed us to grow and plan for a very long-term future. We are moving offices shortly in order to create more space for developers. Growth means more engineers, more ability to move everything forward, but the main goal here remains to nurture an environment and simulation that is the best available and getting better every day. And that's it. But a lot of stuff there. Wow.
To do,
Moving offices.
it sounds like they got a big move coming ahead, but it's interesting to see the background into what they were. Like I remember all the Papyrus games and all that stuff back in the day there before iRacing became big and stuff. I used to always race like NASCAR 2003, NASCAR 4, all those ones before that were developed by Sierra and that stuff. So it's kind of nice to hear about that again.
Yeah. And it's cool that it all came together and it's where it is today. It's a sustainable product, with a long-term future, and so forth. So it is pretty cool to hear all that.
The first time I really started to try out iRacing was in its early days, and one of the things that had us drawn, I was running rFactor at those days, and the rules package in iRacing as far as how it handled cautions and lucky dogs and was in better shape than rFactor even at the time. I struggled that though because the physics were quite so different. It took me a long time to adjust to iRacing. then when I came back and I started only doing iRacing and didn't do R Factor anymore, I think I'd remove that bias.
Yeah, so thank you to John Henry for posting that long form post to really tell us how this thing started, and it's kind of neat to hear. All right, Chris, tell us about Portuguese.
Yeah, next was a post on the forums from Tony Gardner. He was responding to Raphael Sank. I don't know, I'm sure I'm butchering his name, but he is the founder of IRB Esports, iRacing Brazil Esports. And I guess they've kind of, themselves and iRacing have kind of worked together over the years to try to grow iRacing in Brazil and try to grow, you know, iRacing as a service to Brazil. And so, as part of that response, Tony Gardner also said that excited right now we are working on a Portuguese language spotter pack to add to the sound tab in iRacing as a spotter option. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Sounds like iRacing's growing in Brazil, and pretty awesome if you're Portuguese that you get a spotter pack that you can actually understand.
Okay, so I want to run the Portuguese spotter pack, even though I can't understand it, and just see how it is, in an oval race, and just
It'd probably
it'd
teach
be interesting.
it'd probably teach you a little bit of Portuguese because you're already gonna know a lot of what he's trying to tell you.
Right,
Car high, car
car
low.
high,
So
car
yeah,
low. Right,
it
he
might
always
teach you.
says
Yep.
this sound that sounds like car low. Yeah, it'd be fun just to try. All right, David, tell us about VRS GT Team Endurance Series Season 2 issues.
So I think this is a little bit of old hat news because we're in week 3 or 4, but week 1, the sprint series and the endurance series didn't line up, and like particularly we try to run the Le Mans endurance series, so I always like to run a lot of the Le Mans sprint series just to get practice runs. I always seem to learn more in a race than to do in a practice session. Well, they simply weren't lined up, and there was a reply saying that the schedule's fixed, but they can't make the changes until week 2 because sessions had already started. And then at some point they said it was just a simple mistake with them having 72 schedules to set. So it happens. I mean, you can see the spelling errors in the last post I did on the Flosi page.
Yeah, 72 series. I thought that was interesting. I never knew the number, but it's 72 apparently series that iRacing is scheduling for.
It seems like a really big number, when you think about it. Like, you know, spread it out with how many people are on the service. Like, that's a lot of different things that are offered to all the people on this service.
But you can't say there's not enough. Apparently, I mean, that's, like you said, that seems like it's a lot. So
I
should there be
rem
less?
I remember when there wasn't much at all when the first years. It was quite skim for a while. You were always, like even, I think my first 12 weeks were spent in one car and 2 different tracks, and that's it.
I already have to choose things not to do just because I want to make sure I'm still doing good in the things I do. Like, for example, I dropped fixed racing this year and I'm only doing open.
Yeah, it's not bad to focus on a particular genre or car or track or whatever, instead of jumping around, because jumping around can mess you up. But all right, Greg, tell us about If I Were a Rich Man.
So it looks like we're starting to see some of the esports perks showing up here. So the first one here I'm bringing up, Josh Fox at Josh Fox 12 posted huge thanks to Williams Esports for setting him up with Fanatic Club Sport package. So posted a picture of his new setup there, all mounted up. Uh, and then down next, looks like Blake Reynolds went to Texas Motor Speedway. He was posting about it, and guess he really enjoyed the race.
Yeah, that's Team Austin Dillon.
Yeah,
playing for the
Team
race.
Austin Dillon did that one. It looks like another Williams Esports for Matt Busa has also hooked him up with the Fanatic series as well for eNASCAR Peak Series. So good on that. And then the Wood Brothers Looks like Logan Clampett has gotten some stuff from the Wood Brothers made up. It looks for them though for their
T-shirts.
esports series stuff. So it looks like you got
He's with the Burton.
Burton. Sorry, it was Burton. I got the wrong one. Then sorry about that. Burton East Kligerman esports. But those are really. I actually really like those hats, and the shirts look like really nice.
Yeah, the Wood Brothers was Chris Overland. They sent him a Sim Seats rig. Standard, non-motion rig, but it's really nice.
Yeah, sorry about that. I clicked the wrong link there.
And then our friend Nick Ottinger, he got toilet paper. I'm just kidding.
Sounds like he's got something in the works.
Maybe you'll get a wheel or a computer.
Yeah, but it sounded like he said there's something in the works that he hasn't shared yet.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they're going to take good care of him.
A new car.
Congratulations to all the guys that are getting this.
I mean, if you hear what Parker Kligerman has said about this, he says in the coming years that people will be able to make a living doing this, and he says it with not that it's a pipe dream. He's serious about it, and he should know because he's the guy who kind of got this thing started. I think with the draft and the teams and all that. I think he was probably instrumental in all that. But it's interesting that he said that.
So you know how Junior has a car graveyard out on his property, right?
Yeah.
We should get a iRacing equipment graveyard out somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Make a little website.
Bet you Dale Earnhardt will eventually have stuff in his yard that's iRacing equipment graveyard.
All right, David, Porsche Esports Super Cup is coming.
Yes, Porsche is expanding its one-make motorsports to include the virtual championship. I glanced over this and saw something along the lines of $100,000 prize pool. They posted an announcement about it. It involves the 911 GP3 Cup car. By adding an esports racing competition to our established series of one-make cups, we are extending our footprint in the world of motorsports and allowing sim racers to join the global Porsche Motorsports family. And then included in our link is a really nice promotional video, almost documentary style, with an event where the top 35 racers that made it through the Porsche Championship last time all got to go race live, and they got to go right on the real tracks. They got to go out on these drift tracks, which are basically almost like the Central Pita circuit, where there's just some cones, and you can spin the car around as much as you want. There were real race drivers, there were sim race drivers, and they were all kind of checking each other's side of the world out. It was very, very nice video, a good watch, not too terribly long either.
Yeah, I thought the video was good. Now, the video was actually put out by Porsche about the event in December that was done in Germany, I believe, where they invited a bunch of sim racers, like Sage Karen was there, and Mitchell de Jong, and several other of our stars were invited to that event, and showed a lot of video about kind of how that event went down and kind of the equipment they were using, what they got to do on the real track, and like you said, off track as well. Looked pretty cool.
As we can see in that event, it's not only practice, but
they were actually going out on the real track and then coming around and doing the same thing on the sim for comparison.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right, Chris, NIS 2019 weekly participation thread.
Yep, it's a forum thread, just like as you said, NIS 2019 weekly participation thread. And you can keep up on all the NIS numbers. And the post that we are looking at today is all the fixed numbers for NIS fixed from Daytona through Texas. And all the races are up from the participation from last year, starting Daytona at 16%, and then mostly up from there, up in a 30, 40, and even up to 57% increase over last year in Texas last week.
Notice the jump between event number 3 and 4. What happened about that time?
Oh, the new car. Yep.
What would you think that, I mean, obviously everybody shows up for Daytona, but what do you think? Do you think it's just the package that made Texas go up 57%?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really do.
The package, and it's the week after Martinsville. The people that skipped Martinsville are coming back,
But even Martinsville was up.
Well, all of them are
Yeah.
up.
So
That's amazing. I'm really glad to see that.
Fixed is. I wonder what open ends up being.
The package is new. I mean, and so everybody thinks, cool, it's new, and they are expecting, because of the restrictor plate nature or the reduced horsepower, they're expecting that some of the guys who've been on the slower side will have a better chance. And we've seen that. Some people are seeing themselves run better on tracks than they in the past. I'm struggling a little bit more in the mile and a half, but I'm tearing it up on the short tracks pretty decently.
Now, look at these numbers. I mean, Texas 57% more participation this year than last. And then Daytona was 16, Atlanta 20, Vegas 14, ISM 37, Auto Club 34, Martinsville 24, and then the high was Texas 57. You know, NASCAR, if they had numbers like that, they would be really happy. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see NIS continuing to be the premium series that a lot of people are running, and I'm glad that participation is up. That's good to see.
If you notice, do you see that the Sunday night, if you go down to the bottom of the page, you look at the Sunday night numbers, it seems to be a lot higher on Sunday night. Well, Friday night and Sunday night are the two high nights. But
That's where the growth is.
I'm wondering if it's, Sunday nights after watching the race on TV, people wanting to, get on and race.
Yeah, let's try it. Yeah, I do that. I watch the NASCAR race, and I'm like, okay, let's go run it and win, you know?
I listen while I run a road course silver.
All right, next up, a streamed basic setup building class is starting April 4th, okay? This is put on by Christian Challoner, who is a peak driver. He is from the UK. He put up this post in the forums, and it basically he's going to focus on D-class road cars this week. It'll take about 2 hours, and he's going to do it on his Twitch channel, which is Christian underscore C37, and it'll start at 1700 Eastern, Thursday, April 4th.
So it's over with.
Oh, we missed it. Okay. But he's going to do it weekly, apparently, and so this will be an ongoing thing. He's got a Q&A in the forum about what he's going to do about this training, what he's going to talk about, what he's going to teach. And boy, it's what a neat opportunity, you know?
I just went on his Twitch page. You can go and rewatch it. He has enabled it to be recorded, so you can go and check it in his Twitch um, stream up there. So you don't have to watch it live. You can always go back and watch it.
Yeah, cool. Very neat of Christian to do that. He is no slouch, and I'm sure there's some good tips to be picked up if you're a road car driver.
So his thing is twitch.tv/Christian underscore C37.
All right. I think I need to look at that. I didn't get to watch it yet. All right, Greg, tell us about the 410 non-wings car.
So the post was originally written from Trevor Fisher talking about how the 410 non-wing car seemed to be something wasn't right on it, and it looked like staff member Steve Reese got back to him saying that he's going to go back to a little bit of the older physics and the with the alpha group and try some stuff with it. So maybe there's going to be some updates coming to the 410 non-wing car.
Okay. Yeah, it was right, and now it's not right. That's what I've been reading.
Yeah, it's something about the summer of last year is when it was probably at its best, and there was most participation then. Even though it was still low in participation, it was the most then.
All right. Next up, Logan Clampett, peak driver. He actually posted on Twitter a screenshot of the 305 winged dirt sprint car results of who was in his race. And none other than Mr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in there, as well as TJ Majors. And looks like Dale Earnhardt is learning how to race dirt.
He actually referred about that on his podcast a couple. I think it was last week or this week. He was talking about it, getting into the dirt side and starting from the bottom and going up.
Isn't
Yeah.
dirt actually a little bit less of a thing in North Carolina, and they mostly run asphalt?
Yeah, I think it's new to him.
He has an asphalt team outside of NASCAR parts stuff doing. He has
Yeah,
asphalt
he came
guys.
up through pavement late models. Yeah. But hey, we're happy to have Dale on as a guest, just like anybody else. If he's out there racing, come on, Dale. Hit me up. Chris, let's talk about. Well, I hate to talk about NASCAR heat, like that's a bad word, but wow, they're trying to ask for some serious cash.
Yeah, this was a tweet sent out by Adam Stern. He said organizers of the new NASCAR Heat Pro League are asking mid to high six figures annually for the league's naming rights. Sources say an early indicator of monetization plans for the series. Some sources peg the asking price at $750,000 annually. So yeah, they're asking a lot of money.
Okay, so how does this tie into what we do and what we talk about? Well, the Peak Antifreeze series is called the Peak Antifreeze series for a reason. What do they pay? Nobody really knows, but it's got to be similar to this number that's been thrown out of 750,000. That's what NASCAR Heat's asking. I wonder what iRacing is asking for the Peak series. What is Peak paying? I doubt they pay that, but as NASCAR's involvement this year has increased with these draft and the teams, who knows what it is for next year and whatnot. What do you guys think?
I don't see them getting this. I don't
That's a
think
lot,
they're
yeah.
worth it. Yeah, I think this is it's more like an iRacing type budget. I don't think they're worth that kind of money. But yeah, I mean if if they do and it gets more eyeballs on sim racing, I guess it'll probably bleed into our stuff anyway. But man, that sounds like a lot to me.
Remember, a part of the marketing goal with Heat is appealing to a broader audience.
The
Now, if you look in the thread below it, Adam Stern also says the Pro League could add two more teams under its current plan of having up to 16, and sources say the franchise expansion fee being sought is between 50,000 and 100,000. Teams are typically seeking around 50,000 annually for a season-long primary sponsorship.
And did you notice that one of the first responses under that post is Logan Clampett, and he just replied a couple of laughy faces.
Yeah, laughing is right. They're not going to get that kind of money.
Yeah.
You can always ask for it. Someone's got
You
to
got to
pay it
start
at
high,
some point.
right?
Yep.
If
Start
some
high.
if they don't ask for, if they say 100,000 and someone's gonna pay 700,000, you left money on the table, right? Might as well start high, and you can always go lower.
Yeah, you never know with companies with a marketing budget. They got trying to spend some money. They don't know what they're getting into, and who knows? I don't know how it works. Okay, Greg, shooting star.
Uh, at iRacing Twitter page posted a funny video from the Texas race this week. Bobby Zielinski's car spinning and then going up in the air, and it looks like it went into outer space. And it was a very creative video. It kind of, it was just nice to see, a lighter side to, an accident like that. And I guess, there's some people talking about the physics and stuff not being real, but it's just a video.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. They kind of made a joke out of it. Talking about jokes, I'll take the next one. E-Racing April Fools was put on by none other than Dinner with Racers, which is a great podcast I actually recommend. I do am subscribed to that, where basically these two guys, they're road racers. They sit down with people and have dinner with them and do long format conversation podcast recording with various people, and they're usually like legendary motorsports icons, and so it's very interesting to listen to. But anyway, they put out a very slick video on April Fool's Day called E-Racing, and they're going to debut E-Racing, and that's what the video is about. And it's kind of like iRacing, but in their own way. Did you guys see this?
I'm watching it right now, but it's already making me put a smile on my face. It's pretty funny.
Don't worry. We have several.
Yeah, what's interesting too is they get they have cameos of different people. Like for example, James Hinchcliffe, the IndyCar driver, telling us about e-racing and why we should be involved in it.
Don't worry. We have the test driver plan. We don't actually get to race.
But I don't know. That was the only April Fool's thing I saw. There wasn't anything put out by iRacing as an April Fool's joke, like they've kind of done in the past. They kind of missed it this year.
This just gets better and better, the further you get into it. It's well done. Good job, guys.
All right. And now for the final topic, we'll go to Phil at Phil's Pit Stop. Thanks, Phil. IndyCar racing NIS style sounds pretty cool. I think I'm going to probably run on Fridays when my schedule changes up here shortly. And then now the Indy 500 is part of that series as well, and I think I'll be running that too. All right, with that, let's get right into hardware software. David, a new rig, a Playseat F1 Red version.
It's a nice little Playseat. If you're familiar with Playseat, it's prone where you can sit. It's fully adjustable. It's prone. Sits in the F1 style where your feet are up high. I was actually looking at this one last week. The price is around $1,200. It's nice and red, very colorful. Looks comfortable. Ran a endurance race a few weeks ago, and I'm still having issues with basically my tailbone getting sore. So I was tempted. I'm curious if I would enjoy sitting in that position or not, since I mostly run stock cars and sports cars. I spoke with, I think, Mason. His only big concern with the Playseat design is that the column is in the middle, and it might make it harder to get to the pedals. But it's a very nice looking rig.
Wow, what a design. It's so low profile. There's not much to it. You got the seat. You got a thing coming up between your legs for the wheel to set on. There's nothing for gear shift or mouse or keyboard or any of that crap. And then there's a place for the pedals. And the seat is like really laid back. It's like a 45-degree angle, maybe even more than 45 degrees. That would be my concern, David. Would you be comfortable laying down like that?
Yeah, I'd have no way to know unless I got a chance to try it out first. Your feet are as high as your chest, pretty much, once you're fully set in it.
But if you're in an open wheel car, that is the typical position.
Looking through the reviews here, it's scored pretty high on comfort and design and all that. Like, I don't see one single bad review in here for it.
It looks nice too, and it looks sleek, and minimalistic.
I'm in a tight space, so what tempted me towards it is how small the footprint was.
Yeah, it's very low profile.
I'm trying to see if this one has the option to add, because some of the Playseat stuff, they have the option to add the shifter bracket. I don't know if this one does or not. I'd have to see.
Yeah, pretty cool. The website is playseatstore.com.
I run a Playseat, but not this version of it. But I can vouch for Playseat. They are pretty good quality.
Yeah, this is a Formula One Red is what they call it.
You can get it in multiple different colors and even a Red Bull version.
This one is the first one that's actually fully Formula One licensed, in fact.
All right, next up, Greg, VRS Direct Force Comparison. This time it's Martin Kroenke.
So Martin Kroenke was interested in the direct drive at one point here. I guess he had a buddy that had a Leo Botner sim steering V1, I believe it was, and he was basically tried it out, and then I guess he's been working with the VRS Direct Drive Force system that's coming up, the controller, and he says at first it had some typical prototype issues, but later on those issues were resolved, and it had no comparison as far as wheels go. Um, they were even able to tweak the resolution issue with the motor using the SimSteering V1. Um, I guess he switched back and forth between the Leo Botner and the VRS controller, and he's trying to find differences still. Like, so he's still in the process of working on it, but he's written up a pretty good summary of how he's felt going through this process so far on the VRS page.
Okay, so yeah, he just swapped out with the Leo Bodner, the controller part. Basically got it to where there weren't differences. So saying, hey, this is just as good as a Leo Bodner controller. So yeah, I'm still a little iffy on how that's going to work as a full product, but it might come up with this next story that we have coming up. But first, Chris, tell us about PT2 pedal sets.
Well, you're not going to get any because
Sold out.
Yeah, sold out in just under an hour. So he did say that obviously since they sold out so quickly, the next batch is going to be bigger. So if you order the next batch, then you have a better chance of getting them. But he hasn't said yet when that next batch is going to be, from what I'm seeing.
Did they
Yeah,
say
his website is protosimtech.com.
how many was in this batch? Did it say?
No, I didn't say. On the website, it just says sold out now.
When I've seen pictures, it's like 24 or something.
And they're really nice looking pedals.
$480 US plus shipping. The website protosimtech.com. These are the PT2s, and from what I've heard, very, very popular. One guy that I follow, Jeff Ford, who makes computers and sells them, he tries everything. He tries every kind of product out there, and he loves these particular set of pedals over some of the more expensive ones that are available. So the other thing that Proto SimTech announced there, Chris, was they have a new product potentially coming up.
I did see that, but I couldn't see anything about what the product would be. I guess maybe there wasn't anything.
He didn't say anything about what it is, but it's different than pedals, is kind of the way I took it. He says, I've been working on for the past year, and I'm finally getting close to finishing it. And so expect some new product from Proto SimTech. All right. Next up, SimuCube. And so it starts with, first we get some leaks of some pictures of what it looks like. There's a big red emergency stop button. There's a motor. It's fairly rectangular looking. It doesn't really have a sticker on it to tell me what it is. And some a connector on the back that has several connections that you can put in. Looks like Ethernet cables and power and control and different things. But it looks like a really nice direct drive wheel, and this is the updated SimuCube 2, as they're going to call it. And so there was another picture of a guy in an 8020 rig driving it, where it showed it mounted. And then finally there was a post just today that I found that announced the SimuCube 2. They call it the next generation direct drive wheel base. And I kind of read through this, and they do have a website. It is simuq.be. So they put a dot in the middle of the word cube between cu.be. And so the website is SimuCube, but with that dot in it. And what do you guys think about this announcement? I don't know yet what the differences are. I'm trying to figure that out.
It's hard to find out what it is through what they've posted.
If you go onto the website and scroll down to the orange section, you'll see there's actually 3 different options. They got the the Mu Cube 2 Sport, they got the Sim U Cube 2 Pro, and then they got the Sim U Cube 2 Ultimate. And the difference is 17 nanometers versus 25 versus 32. And so that's the amount of torque that the motor provides. So there's going to be three options. So if you click on the Pro, the middle one, it says MSRP is in euros 1,470. Includes a wheelbase, power supply, cables, stop button. So it doesn't have an actual wheel that goes with it. So what do you guys think? A competitor for the Fanatec DD1 or DD2? David, does this compare?
I won't be able to tell you until I get one and try it.
Yeah. How many NMs was Fanatec one?
20 and 25. So the
middle one.
DD1 was 20 and DD2 is 25.
So that would match up with the Simu Cube 2 Pro, which is 25. That's the 1,470 euros, but no wheel. Does yours come with a wheel?
No,
No.
I've already got the two rims that I got from them with my CSL base.
Well, I love that there's other options out here, and I think when you first bought the initial Simu Cube, it was more of a do-it-yourself thing. This looks like a product, that's plug and play, ready to go.
They don't seem to be nearly as bulky as the belt-driven systems either.
Yeah, pretty low profile.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It's just the motor, right?
Yeah. And, the power supply is separate, and you run cables.
The direct drives let you run, like, you can put the motor down if you connect like a drive shaft or anything to, you can put those bases pretty much anywhere then, and run it, run a shaft up to your steering wheel, and you can kind of change the angles and stuff that way with these direct drive systems. The other belt driven ones you really can't do that with.
I have a goal this summer to get a direct drive wheel, and I've been thinking about the DD2 from Fanatec. I'm also hoping AccuForce puts out a version 3 of their wheel soon. Kind of waiting for that. But this is a neat option too, and I might consider this. I don't know if I want to buy a product from Europe, but I guess I would if I was getting a Fanatec.
See, the thing with the direct drive from Fanatec is it's the people that already have the infrastructure behind it. So if you already have a base through Fanatic, purchasing that base is not going to be a problem because you already have your wheels and stuff like that. It's when you start from scratch it's when it's going to be the big investment, right?
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, because all I got is the G27, so I'm going to be throwing that in the garbage and, buying everything from scratch here.
Now we're gonna throw it in the iRacing equipment graveyard.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Greg, tell us about TeamSpeak Night version.
So it looks like TeamSpeak has finally added a night version of it, so that you can, I guess it's not so hard on the eyes. So I guess there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been added to it to do some customizing.
TeamSpeak, it was a website called esportracing.group.com. They have a download of some kind of plugin that you can download that's called TeamSpeak Night, and I tried it, and it's pretty awesome. It makes your TeamSpeak black instead of white, like inverse colors. Night version.
Sounds like it'll be an interesting look here. So I guess there's a bunch of tools with it too that they've added in.
There's a bunch of stuff they have here. This was the most interesting thing I found, was the TeamSpeak Night download. I did try it. You have to run it, and then once you've run it, you have to go into the settings in TeamSpeak, and under, I think, styles or themes, there's a drop down, and you have to pick dark, and then boom, it's black. It's kind of cool. So the website again is esportracing.group.com. Scroll down a little past halfway. You'll see several download buttons where they have different things. They got an MU converter, which is that software you need for telemetry with Motec. They got a workbook that you can use that you need to go with that. They got link to the spotter packs and different things. Some setup PDFs and stuff like that. Now I haven't looked at those, but there's quite a bit of neat stuff on this website. They got a nice website here.
I'm unauthorized.
Say what?
Yeah, that's what happens when I try to download it. It's unauthorized.
It's your browser is trying to protect you.
Probably, yep.
They'll find a way around that. All right, next up, David, the most innovative sim product for 2019, the GS5 G Seat review.
Okay, if you have $3,000 to spend, this might be your seat. It's a very nice review. Did not make it all the way through the video, but just the first 2 minutes has me salivating. It's a seat that it comes, rig is sold separately. It's detachable, mountable to any other rig you might set up, I suppose. It has basically 4 butt kickers that work in kind of a lever approach. Two of them are on your back, and 2 of them are on your seat, and it actually gives you the full range of motion to do all 6 axes of motion. You can simulate acceleration, braking, both of the turns, and also if all 4 of them hit, you can feel the bumps. And all of these kickers are actually built into the seat. It's a very fascinating build, and if you have the money, maybe some of the peak guys might be picking some of these up as well.
Yeah, this is a video by the Sim Pit, and they did a great review of this chair, and you really get this guy's honest opinion about what he thinks about it, the good, the bad. Uh, he said it was intense at times racing with it. It's a totally different experience than a regular motion rig because it feels like sustained G's as you go through a corner. That flap is pushing against you, and that kind of thing. Or as you hit the brakes, it pushes you forward in the seat, kind of thing. And I just love this product. We've talked about it so much. It's definitely on my wish list. You can take this thing and bolt it onto any stationary cockpit and have pretty much motion.
See, I think this is the better idea with the seat, like the sustained force. Like if you have one of those motion rigs that when you make a turn or you're sliding, it slides and then that's it. There's nothing after the slide. It's what you want to feel is that sustained pressure so that you can correct it, or it's just there, right?
Well, ultimately, people are saying get this with a traditional motion rig and the seat, and that's the ultimate. That's the best of both worlds. You get different things from the motion rig than you do from the motion seat, so to speak. And so by combining them, that's the ultimate. And so the guy in the video said that he intends to try that next. He's going to put it on a motion rig and see how that works.
He's got some nice setups. This guy definitely does a really good job with all the reviews on the Sim Pit.
I love it. He said the seat's not comfortable, but you got to remember, at the end of the day, it is a racing seat. It is what's called Kirky. That's a brand. They actually build real racing seats, and that's what this is. And then it's been outfitted with obviously the GS5 motion simulator stuff with these movable flaps.
Price is high, but it's tempting. I want it, but yeah, price is high.
Okay, one more quick note before we jump into results. If you are a Fanatec customer and you've done business with them on their website, guess what? They got hacked, and all your stuff is out there in the public. Now, they say they didn't lose the credit cards. They just lost your name and other, identifying information. And so be aware of that. Next time you log into Fanatec, they are going to force a password change.
Yeah, it's all good.
Good luck with that, Greg.
They can have all my shitty debt.
And David, are you any concerned about them being hacked?
Nah, I've got a whole lot of the ID protection stuff set up, so yeah.
All right. Let's get into NIS results. Finish up Texas. Thursday fixed. I ran. Got a P14. I had a good run going, and someone got me from behind, actually. I did recover nicely from that for a 14th because that was a tough week for me at Texas overall. Friday Open. Chris, P7 for you.
Yeah, it was. I had a bad race Wednesday. And so it was kind of a boring race. I rode around avoiding pretty much everybody for the first 3 quarters of the race, and then race at the end when there was only 12 cars on the lead lap. So it kind of wasn't much fun, but needed the result. So it is what it is, I guess.
It's a shame that you had to do it that way, but I guess in the split you're in, that's the only way to really finish the race sometimes, right?
Yeah, it seems like it. You know, I've raced my guts out last year and couldn't go anywhere high rating wise. So it just seems like you gotta let those guys wreck out before you get your racing. In my splits, anyway.
Yeah, and then poor Tony Groves, he hasn't raced and he's kind of given it up because he's had such horrible luck getting wrecked out of these things, and I just think it's that split he's in. He's got to try something like you did, where he just lays back or something.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, he got wrecked out in like the first lap of his
Yeah,
last
it
race.
was
I think
bad.
it's nuts.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, but hey, that's the way NIS goes. In 36 weeks, you're going to have up and downs, and this is a serious low point for him, but he'll bounce back. David, you got P5. Nice.
Yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot of details other than I managed to survive the stuff. I was fast at Texas every week, but I got to run 3 of the races, and 2 of them, there were just accidents in front of me that I couldn't avoid. And in this particular time, I think I was lucky enough none of them happened in front of me.
That was the one that we were running up front there with the having the when everything went on that long run and we went to the high line with the 80 lap run.
Right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you had to go to the high line once the set we had. It would after 20 laps, the right rear was just heating up, and we couldn't figure out how to make it stop. But you could run up at the high line and really stay at 75% throttle around the entire corner in 3 and 4.
I wrecked it in that last run there. I think with 10 or 15 to go, I came off the corner and just got it loose and clipped the pit road cone and got a black flag, so I had to come down pit road. I salvaged a P12 out of it, but it sucked because I was running in P3 at the time.
Yeah, and it's easy to get caught up in stuff there. Sunday Open, David, you got a DNF, caught up in something. Greg, you were wrecked out. You had a winning car, you said.
Yeah, I led a bunch of laps at the beginning of that race, and I don't know what I know. David was in that race too, but that race was all about. It was all about guys that were trying to run. We got a long run, and people got away from each other. But then when the restart happened, the guys that were falling would fade easily on the beginning of a run. Tried to get up front, and they were pushing past guys and just riding too hard. Maybe 30 laps in, and they just were getting in wrecks, and it just caught. I think there was probably the leader was wrecked 3 different times. Whoever was leading from the lead, so it was just nonsense. Guys need to learn that you're gonna finish where you're gonna finish. Sometimes you can't force it.
People try. Mason put it down. He got a P20. Started P1. Nice pole position. He actually wrecked the leader on lap 2. He said sorry to Stacy Adams from
See,
Florida.
he was in our split too.
Yeah, I've run with Stacy for a long time.
He was
NIS.
Mason was the first one to wreck a leader.
He said he got another wreck but survived with little enough damage to be running 5th, sped on pit road on the final green flag stop, didn't take tires to offset the penalty, and then spun out. Lost his own race. Then Sunday fixed. I wrecked out near the end, but I had a good run going. I was running like, 10th, 15th or so, but got wrecked up pretty bad at about 30 to go and couldn't finish. Let's talk Bristol. Wednesday fixed. I got a P13. I actually ran 10th to 15th most of the day. I pitted on the back stretch, which I've learned is a huge disadvantage. Now let's talk about that real quick. If you're the top 22 in qualifying, you're on the front stretch. If you're 23rd or worse, you're on the back. And so what happens is in the real Bristol race, in real NASCAR, everybody has to enter on the same spot. But in iRacing, that's not the case. You can enter on the front stretch or the back stretch, depending on where your pit is. And so that's the difference.
For a little clarification, it changes whether you're a green flag or yellow on the real track. Green flag you only have to put on your side. Yellow flag everybody pits on the back. Has to drive through the back stretch and the front stretch pits.
Yeah, but in iRacing, you always do it on the side that you're on.
Correct.
Right. So that's the difference. And so what happens is I'm 11th, the top 10 pit on the front stretch. I pull up to the pace car, then I'm the leader, and then I pit on the back stretch. And then they get to pull out and come around me, and then I get to come out kind of behind them. And I always ended up losing spots. I'd go from 5th to 13th, 6th to 12th. I was running 7th, I'd end up 14th, and so it was a huge disadvantage every time you pitted because of the backstretch. And I wish iRacing could fix that. How do they fix it? I have no idea. You got to make it match what NASCAR's doing. Anyway, I don't know what the answer is, but think about it. If you guys have ideas, let me know, and we'll talk about it on the show.
If I remember correctly, back in the R Factor days, they took the exact opposite approach and made everybody go through the entire pits. So you'd lose a ton of laps if you had to do a green flag stop back then.
We just need it to be like NASCAR does it. But anyway, I digress. Wednesday Open, I got a P9. I actually led some laps, and that's legitimately led, not like I stayed out. And I led laps. I ran top 5, top 10 most of the race. But the last run, I really faded. I don't know what it was, but I think I kind of fell out of the seat, to tell you the truth. You really have to focus at this track, and especially when you're running high like me. I'm right against the wall every lap, and I run it up there a little more than most. And but I don't know. I think I fell out of the seat there, and I probably could have finished better, but ended up with a P9. A great result for me at Bristol. I mean, this time last year, if I had a P9, that would be very unusual, and so I'm really happy about that. Nim Cross was in my race, the steward of iRacing, and so kind of interesting to watch people, say the F word and then kind of go, oh no, like I shouldn't have said that. But it didn't sound like he clamped down on anybody for that. But
Funnily though, we were in a practice session right before that, and a driver that I've actually had some issues with actually griped at Nim Cross for not exiting the track fast enough, and he told him, "I don't think you need to be telling me what to do." It was very entertaining.
he probably had no idea who he was talking to. Now, David, you were in my split, and you ended up with P13.
Yeah, this was the first setup that I really aggressively participated in building with the team because we knew Mason was going to miss most of it, and Brent was just getting back, and so I was like, Mason, I know you're not going to get to run, but you don't want to crew chief me. I still don't feel comfortable really making any major adjustments other than the ones you can do on track now. We worked on the setup, and I feel like I'm good enough now that I can, or I'm consistent enough that I can know if it's a setup change or me driving change that's affecting what change he put in. And we went through a bunch of versions and settled on something that we liked. Unfortunately, the one thing we didn't test was how it handles when you can't go out to the wall on exit. So twice this week at Bristol, I've been running. Early on, I've been running and just overdid it and turned it sideways and hit the inside wall and had to drive with a damaged car. I went in, hit the wall, had to pit because I didn't take enough tape off. Ended up 2 laps down for most of the race. Was running down like 10th place, 11th place car while I was 2 laps down, and then there was just enough nutrition and I've got a couple of lucky dogs and was able to climb back up with a heavily damaged nose up all the way back up to 13th.
Yeah, nice run there. Um, the bottom is tough, and I agree. You can self spin down when you're on the bottom like that. You know what? I stay at the top. That's my take on that. I just don't run the bottom at all. If I can't run the top, then I'm not really running the bottom unless I have to. But anyway, Thursday Open, I got a P3. It was a great run. I led laps again and really backed up my good run from earlier in the week. And man, I'm happy with how I'm running at Bristol. I was leading laps. I ended up P3. The leader who won the race, he was fast, man. there were only 3 cars on the lead lap at the end. We had a late caution. I was the lucky dog from third. I think that's the first time I've ever gotten a lucky dog running third. But that's how it worked. There were only 2 cars on the lead lap there when we got that late caution. But it was a long green flag run near the end of the race there. There were green flag stops in the middle. I stopped when the leader did, and I thought that was the right thing. And then after I got those new tires, I just ran hard, as hard as I could, and ended up P3. I think I was like P7 before that green flag round started. And so it really shook out well for me. And I'm excited about tonight, man. I'm going for a freaking win. David, tell us about our intra team standings for NIS.
All right, anybody who's ever done like fraternity sports in college knows we call it intramural, and so that's what we got going on a little. Basically, we take our best finish, and we assume that the splits that we're ending up are automatically handicapping it for us. Currently leading the open standings is still Mr. Scales. He has 2 wins.
The king.
I've bumped up to second spot. I have with that good finish at Texas. I'm 20 wins behind. Mason didn't have a great week at Texas, and he's not going to really get to count Bristol week either. He's now down in third, 26 points behind. And then down in the NIS, Brent, he took the week off. Was on a family trip, but still has the 3 wins and still leads. Got an 8-point lead over Mike. And then Bill Hall, our social media expert, is also 15 behind. It's a tight race there.
All right. Then Road to Pro, Chris, you got a P7.
Yep, it was a lot like my NIS race. I about got bit though. I started on pit road and ended up going 2 laps down, and had a real hard time getting those 2 laps back. But I did, and at the end of the race, it ended up falling where I was running 8th with fresh tires, and everybody in front of me had like 10 or 20 lap tires. So I almost had another win fall in my lap, but we had a couple cautions there at the end instead of racing.
All right, and then Brent McCoy got wrecked out. Mason wrecked several times. He got a P18. Truck actually got stuck in the fence. He put up a video on Tifosi Racing. Check that out.
It's pretty crazy. At first, it got caught in the wall, and then it starts shaking, and several cars just drive straight through it. And the truck actually just like a scared monkey or something climbs up the fence and is hanging in the air. And interestingly, somebody posted a complaint how so many people waited so long to pause or to slow down after the caution had come out. And I had mentioned it gets me back on my soapbox about the fact that pace car doesn't give the field a chance to catch up before everybody's already pitting.
It's way too fast.
All right, then Mason told us about his OSRA League event. He wrecked out, had a bad race, but scraped by with 1 point over 6th place to make the top 5 championship race. However, he's on a work trip, and so Kevin Hash has been promoted to the top 5, and he's actually going to run our iRacing Lounge colors for the championship event there at OSRA. So Kevin Hash, good luck to you, sir, and I hope you can pull it off and go get it. So that's Online Sim Racing Association. Then we talk about the Reddit iRacing League. Phil Linden, he said season 24 is over. He finished the championship 12th in points, the first in the team championship for the 2nd season in a row. It's first in the team championship, so he won first in the team section. And that's it. Let's get into final thoughts. Chris Scales, what do you got?
Got nothing.
Nothing. All right. David Hall, what do you got today for final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to that DD drive coming out, as well as the new VR Oculus once it comes out. I'm going to plan on. Well, I've already purchased the DD drive, and I'm going to get the new Oculus so I can get off of my coat hanger mod.
And you're going to have a wheel for sale.
I'll have a base for sale, maybe. I'm going to hold on to it just to make sure,
Backup.
It's a backup for a little while, and then, yeah, I'll probably sell this CSL at half price or even less.
Probably somebody on the team will take that off your hands. We'll see. Or a listener. All right.
It's only been run for when the DD drives were supposed to come out was Christmas, so I've only been running it for 5 months.
Right. It'll be very gently used. All right. Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
Just looking forward to racing the one race I get in this week on Friday here. And hopefully David and I are in the same split again because it's good racing with teammates. Really
I'll
enjoy.
actually be missing Friday.
Oh, really? Okay. And yeah, so if you guys want to follow me, twitch.tv/frozen cactus, frozen with two O's, cactus with two K's. And yeah, just looking forward to getting some more racing done.
All right, very good. My final thoughts, thanks to Nick Ottinger for coming on the show. We're trying to get all the peak drivers on, guys, so you can learn about them, and they've been very gracious. I appreciate all of them coming on. Every time we contact them, we never hear no as an answer, so I appreciate that. Um, Also, a shout out to Mason Stiver. He's not with us for the first time in a long time, but he's on a work trip or something. And but he does a lot of work on this podcast. He does a really good job. So shout out to him, uh, David for filling in as well, and then Phil Linden for our new segment. He's gonna do a little editorial thing in between hardware and stories. And hopefully every week. We don't know what the frequency is, but I hope you guys liked it. But just trying something new, and we'd like to get Phil involved. He's got a lot to say sometimes, and sometimes we don't convey that message very good for him. So that'll be a good outlet for him. Also, man, I'm running good at Bristol, but I got fired up in this last race at one guy. I don't even remember his name, but he gave me 8x in 2 different laps, and I had to speak up on the mic and say, "Hey, dude, within 2 laps, you gave me 8x. I mean, how is that even possible?" But watch out, guys! Don't get DQ'd out there.
And I'm glad you brought that up because one of the parishioners in the race actually requested, he's a fan of the podcast, actually requested that we call the podcast 8X in 2 laps.
All right, well, there's our title. All right, and with that, we'll see you on the track later.
User in your channel stopped recording.
All right, we're clear. I guess we got a title.